Welcome to another vintage fishing reel service video. In this episode we have a Lido number 400 made in Japan Spincast reel, and I don't know if it's broken or not. I have a feeling that it might be because I think this is the drag, and I don't think it's supposed to move that freely, so I don't know what we're going to get into here. Given its general appearance and the fact that it was made in Japan instead of Korea and so on, these typically would probably be, 1970s. So let's get into it and see if there's any hope for this one. And we'll start off by removing the nut on the spinner head. And it's got a rubber line brake, which is in good shape. It does have it's actually only a four notch line pickup, and instead of a pickup pin. And that's how Zebco's started out, like in '64, the 202s, and even the 77s and maybe others had four notches, and then they went to like 22 or whatever. But that's a four notch. And then wow. So that's interesting. So the E-clip was not inserted, just loose in there, and then you got a drag washer, and then you've got the spool and a lot of nasty line on there. Let's get that off of there. There. Okay, so we put those in the parts tray. And then, wow, we've got some really mashed up drag washer in there. It's broken and smashed. It got pinched and torn. Look at that, it's falling apart. So I'm going to have to try to find a drag washer replacement. And then you've got, interestingly, okay. Thought for a minute that had corroded away, but there's your pressure plate. That's just all grease and a little bit of corrosion. And then there's the drag post. And whether or not I'm going to be able to fix that, I don't know. Okay, maybe there's a spring missing or something, because I can, let's see, I can make it rise and I can push it back down. We'll have to get in there and see what's going on, but I can make it rise. But when I run it the other way, I have to push it to get it to fall down. So we'll see what's going on there. There's your bait, or your drag clicker right there. How does this? Okay, so looks like you spin off the handle, and it looks like probably going to have a long screw here and a short screw here. This one's probably going to be long in order to act as the hinge for the pin. We'll see, or for the thumb button. We'll see if it's a long one. I think so. Boy, they got it threaded. Well, not all the way down, huh? About halfway down. Oh, look at the grease in there. Take this other one off. Hoping that drag is fixable. It's like a cam. It's just a cam. But how do you get the spring? How do you get that to go back down? So if you push it like that, you turn it like that, that's maximum drag. And then if you turn it like that, just be the pressure from the actual spool, but that E-clip wasn't on there, so maybe when it's all installed that'll go back down. I don't see how you'd ever get a spring in there. Maybe it just kind of pushes back down on its own. I don't know. But it's a cam mechanism. There's maximum drag, there's minimum. And that thing will just pull completely out of there. What have we got here? Oh my, that's all grease. That's all grease right there. All that, look at that. Looks like somebody opened up a can of peanut butter and put it in there. These last two reels I've done have been just all greased up. Alright, and just my luck, I suspect I'm going to have to, in order to get that pinion gear out of there, that I might have to back that spring off of there. There ain't much really room to work in there. It's like poop. I kind of hate to, this is metal, so this is all metal. I kind of hate to monkey with this thing, and even if I did, I don't know if that, I really hate to try to maybe unscrew this spindle. Maybe that's a good way to get it out. But I have my concerns about doing that. I'd almost rather try to winkle this spring off of the... Wait a minute, here it comes. Question is, there's not any, I don't think you're going to get it past the back of the housing there. Well, I can't get it back in. Well, I'm just going to see if I can winkle that spring off of there. I don't even know if that's going to do me any good, because the diameter of that shaft won't even clear. I don't even think the shaft itself will clear. Well, I'd really hate to mar that thing up by trying to get the pliers around that. I'm going to give it one minor twist, and if that doesn't work, I'm going to... Okay, it did come free with a counterclockwise turn. Or, I'm sorry, clockwise. So it's reverse threaded. All right, well, that's kind of neat. Look at that, brass. Metal body, brass interior. And that gives me enough room to, and this is all brass. Look at that. Pretty neat. And so now I think we should be able to just push and pull this main gear out of there. Just full of grease. Somebody got in here. This can't be factory. I just have a hard time believing that they put that much, but you never know. Somebody getting tired on the assembly line and just got a little crazy with the grease. Who knows? Now there's your anti-reverse pawl. And that should come off of there. And it looks like the acute end of it, this acute claw here, goes up. So not like that, but like that when we put it back together. And so that's the complete teardown. It'll be interesting to see once it's all together whether that drag works the way it's supposed to. I'm guessing it might, because I don't know how else. I really don't know how you'd get a spring in there. So, at any rate, at this point, I'm going to take all of this to the sink, scrub it with a toothbrush and some WD-40, get all the grease and all that off of there, and then again with Dawn dishwashing soap to get rid of all the residues, making sure to get down into the journals and things with down inside this too with a cotton swab, so that'll run smooth again. So I'm going to head to the sink and I'll be back just like that. All right, let's lay all the parts out here. And we'll start off with, I guess, the main gear here. I'm going to take a little bit of steel wool and just clean up that shaft a little bit, shine that up, and put some grease on there. Just packing those teeth. And a little on the anti-reverse gear. And then we've got to get that anti-reverse gear in there. And I'm going to put a little bit of oil on the post, and that acute claw went up. So where's my, went up like that, and then we're going to want some oil on the shaft of the main gear and slink that down in there. Make sure the anti-reverse is working, and it is. And then we're ready for reinstalling the shaft and the pinion gear shaft. Now there's some little clips in there, and I think what happens, let's see, wait a minute, I got this backwards, goes in like this. But there's a clip in here. I don't know if you can see down in there, but there's a clip in there, and I don't know if you have to kind of force that or what, but I imagine that gets up in this groove here eventually. I don't know if you have to, I hope you don't have to take that out in order to get that to go up in there. Let's see here. I'm going to try to slink that clip off of there and then put it back on. So there's that little clip, and that little loop goes into one of the holes, either one of those holes. So I'm gonna get that back in there. Remember, it's reverse threaded. And I'm just going to get it a little bit of a turn there. Now, I'm going to put that clip back in like that. And that, I think that operates basically the button, and you know, basically when you push it up, that locks it, that clip locks it into place, and then when you wind, it comes back, that comes back down. So let's grease the pinion gear. Oh, I should have oiled that shaft. I think I can do it without pulling it back out. I'll just sneak it in this way and move that up and down, and then there, like that. That'll work. Now let's get some grease on this pinion gear. And up on the shaft there on the spring. And at that point, I think we're ready to reinstall the side plate. So I'm going to put some oil in this pin here for the drag and get that back in there. I'm going to sneak a little oil down and around that cam. And we'll just see if this is going to end up working. I don't see how there's a return spring possibility there. So, let's see. So that's at maximum drag right there. And we got to get our spool on there. And then this pin. Probably should have put a bit of grease on that hinge there, but that's okay. Or actually on the hinge, and also on a grease on the button where it contacts the shaft there, but not absolutely necessary. So now that thing wants to slide in and out pretty easily. We'll see if it works when it's all back together. Now, pressure plate has to go on this way because that pin is going to push up into the pressure plate. And there's two little posts there that rear end of that fits on. Now, if you'll recall, that next drag washer, pretty much broke up. So this isn't quite as thick that it's going to have to do for now. This is a piece of Teflon that I've cut into a drag washer. I just traced it on there. So I'm going to put that down next. And because this, let's see, yeah, the spool is going to rotate around the spindle, and because of that, we'll go ahead and grease that up and put the spool on with the notch side down so that the drag clicker does its thing. And then we'll get a little grease on this drag washer and put that on. And then, I don't know if this is maybe kind of a C-clip, but it looks kind of like an E-clip. And get that into place. That's awful loose, so might have to tighten that old gal up a little bit. I hate doing this because, boy, if you over tighten it, can be a real pain in the rear. That was coming off easily with the fingers. There. Now, we don't have any pickup pins, so no need to lubricate anything there. We can put the spinner head back on and the nut. And lubricate. I've already rinsed that out with WD-40. Just put a couple drops of oil in there to lubricate that. And then put that on. And a little bit of gunk there still. And now the cover, and that's not going to be a screw, that's going to be a little groove and notch. So we can decide if we want the pretty side up or not, maybe. Get the boat rash facing down. Working just fine. Now the real test is going to be this drag. So actually, I'm going to want to take this back off. I think I can test this drag with this off here without having to put line on it. So now it's on minimal drag. Now I'm going to turn the drag up to maximum. There we go. And that turns much more difficult. Certainly, you know, you wouldn't need to have any more drag than that. Now, if I want a little more, I might double up that. Where is that? Where's that piece of Teflon I had? I just bought it in sheets off of Amazon. There it is. I could make another one of those and double that thickness up, but it's pretty tight. And so if we bring that all the way back down, so that thing won't spin around all the way anymore. It stops now at maximum. And I think that's because this C-clip or E-clip or whatever it is was off before I got into it. So, put the spinner head back on. Put the cap back on. And there you have, look at that. A Lido or Lido or however you want to say it. Number 400, made in Japan, circa 1970s. All cleaned up, lubed up, ready to go fishing again. So, you know, I don't know how many of these are out there, how many of you have one, but somebody somewhere might get one and wonder how to do that or what's inside, and somebody will scroll by and see that or search for it and say, hey, that's what I've got. And they'll know a little bit about what's inside. So I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.